More than 100,000 people have gathered at a far-right rally in London, organised by anti-Islam activist Tommy Robinson. Police say they made several arrests after attempts to breach barriers between the far-right and counter-demonstrators. Now, the protest comes amid growing anti-immigration sentiment in the UK after a summer marked by rising tensions and violence.
Tens of thousands marched through central London under the motto, "Unite the Kingdom." Concerns about immigration united many of those taking part, though the event was branded as a free speech festival.
Why is it important for you to be here today?
For freedom of speech, to hopefully stop the illegal immigration from coming to our shores, to help the homeless, the disabled, the working class, veterans, number of things.
Others expressed frustration over a recent row over the use of national flags, including England's red and white St. George's Cross. Critics say it has become synonymous with far-right ideology.
Every country is allowed to fly their flag. Every country. So are we. So if this is good enough for our king, outside Buckingham Palace is good enough for my ass.
The protest was organised by Tommy Robinson, seen by his supporters as an anti-establishment free speech defender. Detractors describe him as a far-right agitator whose rhetoric often targets minority communities and stokes division.
They have attacked the family, they've attacked Christianity, they've opened the borders, they've flooded our nations. They managed to silence us for 20 years with labels: racist, Islamophobe, far right. They don't work anymore.
Refugees are welcome here.
The protesters were met by a much smaller group of counter-demonstrators. Some 5,000 people gathered under the banner of the March Against Fascism.
Tommy Robinson today is going to try and get thousands of those people out on the streets. He's calling it a big free speech festival, but we know this is just an excuse for him to spread some of the worst hatred, division and racism that exists in our society.
The far-right rally descended into violence when a faction of Robinson's supporters threw items at the rival demonstration and tried to break through police barriers set up to separate the groups.
DW correspondent Birgit Maass was at the rally in London and she joins us now. Birgit, you were there, you spoke to the protesters. What did you hear?
Yeah, I spoke to several protesters, and what I heard was that there was a feeling that migrants are in some way prioritized. So a perceived threat via migrants, by migrants, even though in the official crime statistics, violent crime has been falling in the last decades while the migration figures have been rising. But nevertheless, there is a feeling that the migration has gone too far, that not more people should be let into the country. And when it comes to crime, there have been some high-profile cases, the so-called grooming gangs. That's several years ago, but there was a lot of press about them. Men of mostly South Asian origin had abused underage girls, and that had gotten a lot of press, and also more recently because there was an inquiry around it. So these cases were cited by those people that I spoke to, but also the subject of free speech, that there was a perception that when you express right-wing views online, that you are censored more than people who are expressing left-wing views. And
there was this central figure, Tommy Robinson, who organised the rally. For people who are not familiar with him and his place in the UK scene, what more do we know about him?
He's a very well-known far-right activist here in the UK, very divisive. He expresses views against Islam. He said about Islam, it's a psychological problem. He's been jailed also several times. He's not very popular according to opinion polls here in the UK. He is, however, supported by Elon Musk. and that is significant. Elon Musk also was via video link had a speech at the demo and was calling even for the dissolution of parliament. And I have to say, all this does have effect on the Muslim community. I was in touch with several women today who are wearing headscarves, and they said they would definitely avoid central London. So the Muslim community in the UK is sizable, around 7% of the population, and demonstrations like this do have an effect on people, that's for sure.
And Birgit, I mean, we saw last year, around this time last year or summer last year, when there were major protests after the Southport incident, and then this has flared up again. And I'm just wondering sort of what this says about the situation in the UK and where things are headed, essentially.
Yeah, it feels like quite vulnerable, I have to say. So polarization is really increasing. There were some protesters from the left, but not that many. But this was a very big march, and it was preceded also by another summer of protest. So we have seen the number of people coming via what's called small boats, so coming via the English Channel in inflatables. We have seen those numbers rising. So they are not very high when you compare them with overall migration figures. But I think it's significant that governments, the last Conservative governments, but also the new Labour government, they have promised to decrease those numbers, but it hasn't happened. So the numbers have been rising, and I think for people who find this problematic, there is a feeling that there is no control over the borders. And as a result, we have seen more protests against accommodation for migrants, and also a fairly new phenomenon, the flying of these St. George's flags, these English flags in smaller towns in England, across the country. I've also seen it myself around London, and these flags were definitely, a lot of these flags were seen there today. So that's sort of crystallizing this protest movement.
Birgit Maass in London, thank you for that update.